Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the final lesson. This is the last of the online lessons. Today, we are going to be focusing on the Opferschulzblatt. We're going to be reading it, comprehending it, and then we're going to be going through and then thinking what would a victim of any potential crime that we have discussed thus far want to know or need to know the most from this particular blatt. And then we're going to be going over some last articles that I think are very fun and that we will be discussing in class together when I return. And the articles are basically about the difference between the mentality or attitude of German police versus New Zealand police. And I think it will be very interesting for you guys to discuss, to understand, and then debate. We'll be debating it together when we see each other face to face. So, without further ado, let's start here. Okay, so we have the Opferschulzblatt. It can be found at this website. It's very simple, very easy for you guys to find it. There's various versions of it in English, in German, etc., etc. The German version is a lot prettier. It looks a lot nicer, but the English version is what we're looking for today. And essentially, we want to read this, break it down into its individual pieces, and then focus on what is most important. Okay, what is it that you think victims will want to know the most? So let's begin. And I like how it starts off at the very beginning where it says nobody expects to be a victim of a crime, and lists various crimes. And then it simply says, okay, let's help you find your rights. Well, what are your rights? German only. Okay. And then also all the main things that it sends you to do to talk to people are here at the back. And then we see again, very quickly, German only. German only. German only. And German only. Fun times. So you guys are essentially going to be in class. We'll be doing a role play where you have to hand out the Opferschulzblatt to help someone and explain what's important from this to a person. Let's read through this, break it down, and figure out what is most important. Okay. Who can help me? There are a number of victim support organizations that you can offer advice and assistance to you. These organizations are run by specially trained women and men who have a lot of experience in assisting people in your situation. They are there to listen and to help you. Auf Deutsch. Depending on how serious your case is, these organizations can help you get additional support like counseling and therapy. Sometimes you can get therapy in English or other languages that are often spoken in Berlin, but it's number one, of course, is German. It is what it is. Okay, so what I want you guys to do while we're following along with these paragraphs, rate this paragraph in terms of importance or in terms of usefulness. So out of 5, is this like super important to know? I'd maybe give it a 1. You might give this a 5. Let's see, what about this one? If you were a victim, is this important to know? How can I report a crime and what happens next? If you want to report a crime, you should contact the nearest police station. Once you have officially reported a crime, the process cannot be reversed. This is because police and prosecutors in Germany are legally obliged to investigate almost all types of crime reported to them. There is only a small number of less serious crimes that the victim can choose to prosecute or not. For example, assault or property damage. In Germany, these crimes are prosecuted upon application. That means these authorities prosecute the offence only if you, the victim, tell them to do so. In these cases, you have a deadline of 3 months to tell the authorities to prosecute the offence once you have become aware of the crime and know who the offender is. Yeah, I would rate this paragraph in terms of importance, for me, a 5. You might do so differently. Let's break this down. What is important for people to know? I think this is the most important thing to know. It cannot be reversed, and that's because police and prosecutors in Germany are legally obliged. Fun fact, in German you can say obligiert, but I don't think anyone says that anymore. Obligiert, maybe that's how it's pronounced. What do you guys think this is an easier German word for obligated? It's verpflichtet. This very particular situation is something that most people do not understand, that they cannot take things back. Obviously, for, rape, assault, anything serious, everyone goes, no, we want that person to be prosecuted. But sometimes people think that they can report a crime just to cover their backs and then say, oh, I don't want to prosecute, or I don't want to be involved in this. Yeah. And then this is where part 2 and part 3 comes on. What happens if I don't speak German, or if my German isn't very good? That doesn't matter. Auf Deutsch, they say here, das macht nix. If you want to report a crime, someone will help you. If you're interviewed as a witness, you will have the right to an interpreter. Yeah. For me, this would probably be a 1. I think my German's okay, but it's always nice to know that if you are a witness, you have the right to an interpreter, but you don't have the right always. It's mostly when you're a witness. Okay, so this is where things slowly come together with what we learned about in the previous lesson. I'm sure you guys remember about making a report. Well, there's certain things about making a report that the victim needs to know, and knowing about these things and how to explain from the Opferschulzblatt is very, very important, and hopefully you guys will keep these points in mind. Because when you get a report, often you get a Sachbearbeiter, and this person gets a case number. Okay, so this is the main word for this exercise that you need to know. Case number. And this is for this particular part here. What information can I receive about my case and how it is progressing? If you are a victim of a crime, the authorities will not always send you information automatically about what they are doing to prosecute the offence. If you want to receive information on how your case is progressing, the best thing to do is to tell the police this when you report the crime to them. You should also tell them what information you want to get. Once you have asked for this information, you will receive a short document confirming that you have reported the crime to the authorities. You'll be told if the public prosecutor's office, I think in German this is the Staatsanwalt, decides to terminate the case, i.e. not take it to court. If the case is taken to court, you'll be told when and where the trial will take place and what the defendant is accused of. You'll be told about the outcome of the trial. This means you'll be told whether the defendant was found innocent or guilty, or whether the trial was terminated without a verdict. Verdict is ohne Ergebnis. You'll be told whether the person concerned is in custody, aka if they are detained or not. And if the person is found guilty, you'll be told whether they have been banned from contacting you. Guilty is schuldig, auf Deutsch. Under certain circumstances, you can also ask to receive information or copies from the case files. For example, if you've been involved in a road traffic accident, you might need drawings of how the accident happened in order to receive compensation for the damage and or for pain and suffering. You can also ask for a copy of these drawings and from the case files. If you're not involved in the trial as a so-called private accessory prosecutor, you must explain why you need this information. There may be exceptions to this rule in some cases. Okay, let's break this down. How important do you think this is to a victim? Well, not all paragraphs are equal. And in this case, not all parts of the paragraph are equal. This is clearly a 5. This is super important. This is a little bit of Fachchinesisch, and this is 1000% full of Fachchinesisch. This is essentially trying to explain things in lawyer terms. It's one of those things that you say because you have to say, but it's not necessarily super useful for these people. Like Yeah, sure, this part is useful if you've been involved in a road traffic accident, but not all of it is. So I would, if I were you, focus on knowing how to say this, the different terms and words as I explained to you. Okay. Your statement as a witness. As a victim of crime, you have a very important part to play in criminal proceedings. You are a witness. In most cases, you will give your witness statement to the police. In many cases, you also need to testify later on in court. Only in exceptional cases will you not be required to testify. This applies, for example, if you are married or related to the person accused of committing the crime. In these cases, you do not have to say anything. I would say this is actually an extremely important part. Most people don't know this if they are foreigners in Germany. They don't know about this part, and they don't know that if you say something, you have to testify in court later. Some people say, "Oh, I said it to the police," and you do it. No, it's not on me, that's on you. You do the thing. Yeah, no, this is absolutely necessary. Okay, however, you must still give your name and address when asked to do so. You may not have to provide these details if you're in danger, aka if someone has threatened to hurt you. If you go to the authorities, in this case, you will not need to give your home address. You can provide another address for the authorities to reach you. For example, you can give details of a victim support organization that you are in contact with. Being a witness is a situation that most people are not familiar with and can be very difficult. To make things easier, you are allowed to bring someone along with you when you testify. This can be a relative or a friend. You can have them with you when you are being questioned as a witness. This person will be asked to leave the room only in exceptional cases. You are also allowed to have a lawyer present. In special cases, the state will even pay for a lawyer to assist you during the questioning. If you think you need a lawyer to help you while you testify, you should speak to the responsible police officer, prosecutor, judge before they begin asking you questions. Children and young people who are victims of violent or sexual offences are offered professional care and support before, during, and after the trial. This is called psychosocial assistance in court proceedings. In some cases, adult victims of serious violent or sexual offences may also receive this kind of support if they need it. Psychosocial assistance is free of charge for victims if the court has approved it. Ask at your nearest police station or police office or victim support organisation for more details. Okay, noch auf Deutsch. Wie schön. Okay, so let's break this down. Some parts are very, very important. Some people need to know these things. For example, psychosocial assistance. This is a big fancy word. This is definitely something people need to know of if they are part of this crime. Not everyone needs to know this. Not everyone needs to know this particular phrase. But these things are definitely relevant. So let's break this down again. I would say this is like a 4. This part is like a 5 if it's relevant to the topic. This is 100% a 5 or a 1, depending on the situation. People need to know that this is at least available and that they're not going to be left out in the cold. Whereas this, I would say, is close to 3. It's sort of important, but it sort of comes second to everything else. Whether you agree with me or not, let me know. This particular phrasing here is probably very useful for people when they are testifying. Most people know they're allowed to have someone with them, but they are only there to help them in some ways. Okay. Let's keep going. Can I join the prosecution? If you have been the victim of a certain crime or certain crimes, you can join the prosecution in your case as a so-called private accessory prosecutor. You can become a private accessory prosecutor if you are the victim of a crime like rape, sexual abuse, or attempted murder, or if the crime resulted in the death of a close relative. This gives you special rights. For example, you can participate in all parts of the trial, which is not the case for other witnesses. Okay. Again, this is either a 1 or a 5 for me, depending on like how relevant is this to you. Private accessory prosecutor. There is a German version of this. I'm not going to look it up, but this is one of those phrases that if you work in this job environment, you need to know this phrase all the time. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Just use it on the Opferschulzblatt. But it basically means that you are allowed to privately prosecute the person, and you are an accessory as the prosecution. So if you guys remember the term accessory, there's accessory to crime, but there's also accessory to prosecute. So in this case, the police are the primary prosecutors, or the state is, and then you would be in addition to this, which allows you special rights and everything, and this is approved mostly by the judge if you're allowed to join the prosecution. So it only goes so far. Okay. Again, this is a 1 if it doesn't involve you whatsoever and you don't care. However, if you have been raped, attempted murder, any of these things, obviously this is a 5. Okay. Ooh, big one. Who pays for my lawyer? Hiring a lawyer can be costly. Yeah, no kidding. If the defendant is found guilty, he or she must pay your lawyer's fees. Yeah, they do, but if they can't afford it, they don't have to. However, not everyone who is found guilty of a crime is able to cover these costs. You might have to pay some or all of the fees yourself. Under certain exceptional circumstances, you can ask the court to appoint you a lawyer paid for by the state. You can do this, for example, if you are the victim of a violent or sexual offense, or a crime has led to the death of a close relative. In this case, the state will pay for your lawyer even if you have the money to do yourself. You can also ask the court to help pay your legal advice in other cases. This may apply if you do not earn a lot of money, or you have the right to act as a private accessory prosecutor. Okay. This is a 5. Everyone needs to know this. Everyone needs to know about lawyers. And the number one question I think most victims will ask is going to be based around this topic. Do I need a lawyer? Do I need to spend money? This also applies to translators, obviously, if you need a translator. Do I need to pay for it? Will the state pay for it? Things like this. In this case, the state will pay for your lawyer, even if you have the money to do so. This is a 5. This is very, very important for people to know. But they need to know this only applies to some circumstances. Okay. Let's keep going. Almost done. Compensation and damages for pain and suffering. Compensation. So, not everyone knows this word. Most people should know this word. Yeah. Entschädigung, Ausgleich, both sort of work. There's Vergütung, but again, it all depends on the situation, but I'm pretty sure most people know the word Ausgleich or Entschädigung. Those who are learning German, that is. And this is probably what compensation is most likely going to mean. Okay. Have you suffered injury because of a crime? Or would you like to receive damages for pain and suffering? Do you want to make these claims during the criminal trial? This is usually possible. In order to add your compensation claims to the trial, however, you must first submit an application. You can do this immediately when you report the crime to authorities. You can also claim compensation outside of the trial. In this case, you must turn to a civil court. You can ask the court for financial assistance to obtain legal advice if your income is too low. This is a 5, for me at least, depending on the situation. Some people would say this is a 1. Maybe they don't expect to receive any compensation whatsoever. People will probably want to know if they can receive this at the beginning, and most people don't know this. But you can do this immediately when you report the crime. You can say, hey, I would like compensation. People don't know about this, that they can do it, that it's not too late, but most people also don't know whether it's possible, whether this works or not. Okay. Main word to know is compensation means, in most situations, Ausgleich, or it can mean Entschädigung, depending on the situation. Okay. What other rights do I have? And again, this is where you have more Fachchinesisch and you have a lot more phrases that need to be said that don't necessarily need to be known. Okay, so let's go through these paragraphs bit by bit and understand what is most important. Okay. Have you suffered damage to your health as a result of a violent crime? If so, the law allows you to receive state benefits. For example, you can receive help and pay for medical treatment or counseling, or to buy equipment such as a cane, walker, or wheelchair. You can also receive support in the form of a pension, for example, to compensate for loss of earnings. You can apply for these benefits immediately when you report the crime to police. If you've been attacked by extremists or affected by terrorism, you can apply for financial assistance from the Federal Offices of Justice. You can find out more about whether you're entitled to this and how you can claim it by looking on their website. This is nur auf Deutsch, I'm pretty sure. If you have become a victim of domestic violence, German law states that you may be entitled to additional protection. Entitled, this is definitely a fancy word. Let's look it up really quickly. I think I know it, but I want to be sure. Yeah, berechtigt. You can betitelt, privilegiert, not really. But entitled, berechtigt is the word that I knew from this. So what rights you have to that you are able to gain. So, German law states that you may be entitled to additional protection. For example, you can ask the family court to prevent the person who hurt you from making any contact with you. Also, if you share your home with a person who is violent towards you, the court might ask you to give you the right to live there alone. You can submit applications to the court in writing, or you can speak to the staff at the court itself, and they will file your application immediately. You do not have to be represented by a lawyer. Again, this is, depending on your situations, anywhere between a 1, a 3, and a 5. For me, certain things would be very, very important to know that you do not need to be represented by a lawyer. You can do it immediately. You can apply for this. There are so many people that go through domestic violence and do not know that they have rights. They are afraid to leave home because they think, what will I do? Where will I go? They've got nowhere to go, so on and so forth. There's lots of assistance out there. They just need to know that they can apply for it. And they need to know how to apply for it. Okay. And then the last of these paragraphs. Victim-offender mediation. Victim-offender mediation. Again, mediation, I'm pretty sure is mediation. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay. Vermittlung, okay, you can say that too, but Mediation is there as well. That works. Mittlerschaft, Mittelturm. Not really what we're looking for. Is a process that is mainly designed to help victims of a crime overcome the wrongdoing they have suffered. This is different from a normal criminal trial. In mediation, offenders must take direct and specific efforts to repair the damage and injury they have caused to the victim. The victim may have suffered financial damage, psychological harm, psychologische, that's one of the fun words to say in German, or may be suffering from anxiety caused by the offense. Mediation aims to solve these problems. Victim-offender mediation is never carried out against the victim's will. Also, it can be offered only if the offender is seriously willing to accept responsibility for what he or she has done. In suitable cases, victim-offender mediation can empower victims to manage the conflict themselves and restore peaceful relations under the law. Police and prosecutors will often recommend this option. However, it is not part of the criminal proceedings. It takes place separately. Victim offender mediation is offered by specialist organizations that hire trained mediators. I never took part in this, but several people very, very, very close to me have. And they said this is extremely important. It's an extremely important process to grieve over things or to realize they were just a target. They didn't do anything wrong. They didn't deserve to be attacked. They didn't deserve to be harmed. Sometimes victims don't realize this, or it takes a lot of time to process this. And this process speeds it up. It helps them to mentally understand their role in the crime, therefore that they didn't have one, or that they were not responsible. Simply because of my own personal experience, I would put this as a 5. This is something that definitely needs to be mentioned, depending on the situation, and this only works, obviously, as it says here, if the offender wants to take responsibility for their crimes. If they do, this is extremely helpful in helping people come to terms or to accept reality. I'm sure you guys have heard of the 5 stages of grief. Acceptance is the last one of those stages, and this speeds up the process to acceptance. This speeds up things to get people through the depressive stage, through the anger stage, towards acceptance. Okay. And again, it says, how do you get there? Auf Deutsch. It is what it is. Okay, and then there's more of this, and there's some numbers and who to contact. Okay, so obviously use the link and go through it yourself. So now that we have all of this information, what do we want to do? We want to break this down and understand what is most important. So I gave you my personal rankings, 1 through 5, of what was said here, of which information is most important. But then we want to realize, like, what do people actually want to hear, or what questions will people ask first when they are given this particular piece of paper? What do they need to know first? And I would say here that depending on the crime, you need to know what is being said. So, crime number 1, assault. Go through this and figure out, for me, take 5-10 minutes, however much time you need. Go through and figure out what of these situations, of these paragraphs, do you think is most important to someone who is a victim of assault. Okay. Crime number 2, sexual assault. What would a person of sexual assault want to know the most? Which paragraphs are most relevant to them? List them out and think of like the phrases that you would say for first just general assault, then sexual assault. Third one is robbery. Not think of it in the robbery of they were threatened to be attacked, or someone said, "Give, I've got a knife, give me your bag." Not that they were physically attacked. That simply someone stole something from them and physical violence was threatened. What would a victim of this situation want to know? What would someone who is a victim of this or a witness of this need to know when it comes to help in this situation? And last but not least of these particular crimes, what if it is just trespassing or breaking and entering? Like someone went into their house, didn't take anything, or went into an area they're not supposed to. What would they need to know? Would they need to know anything? Would they be considered a witness? Would they be even considered a victim? What would a person need in this case? So, take 5 to 10 minutes, go through the Opferschulzblatt yourself. You can do it in German if you want to, but I need you guys to know this and think of this so that you can discuss in class together what do you think people will need to know or want to know from the Opferschulzblatt in order of most importance for those 4 crimes. Okay. Okay, pause the video, blah, blah, blah. Let's go to the final point. And this is one of those things that I find fascinating. Because we have to talk about Datenschutz. Datenschutz is a big thing in Germany. It is a universal right. A lot of people are very, very demanding about it. I saw a very big thing the other day about Südkreuz and the AI camera recordings that they have there, and everyone being really grumpy about it. Well, in New Zealand, cameras everywhere. Everywhere. It's crazy. And it's all used automatically in very particular groups or with very particular companies, and they all work together to end crime, because there was huge crime spikes, specifically around COVID or after COVID in New Zealand. A lot of it involved shoplifting or basic robbery within stores. But as a result, a lot of people, enormous, like literally, we went through so many stores and they just all have cameras installed. And these cameras use AI. They say that there's someone operating them or there's a staff or a crew member operating it. It's all got facial recognition software, and it's all most likely run by AI. But the thing is, the police encourage it. The police encourage it in New Zealand for everyone to use these cameras to catch criminals. And then they say, hey, give us, if you have this, we'll use it in court and we can get these people in prison faster. They actively encourage it, and we're going to read a little bit about this and about this technology and how it potentially can be used or would be encouraged in its use by police. There's also some very, very interesting details on how it is encouraged, why it is, and so forth. And we want to think about this, and so we can look at it in class together and then debate, what is the difference between German police, New Zealand police, and why they do this. Because the New Zealand police love this. One, because it makes their job easy, and two, they are actively given keys or access to being witness to a crime. I had a really interesting discussion with some Schutzpolizei once, and we talked about the role of witnesses. Are witnesses helpful? And they said yes, but they don't always say the same story. So quite often you'll have a group of witnesses, 10 or 12 people, and of this group, you hear 12 different stories. And the only time witnesses are useful is when their stories all line up. They're all saying the same thing, or when they can all go, but, okay, this is what happened. With the use of cameras, it gets rid of the need for witnesses or witnesses to corroborate. So corroboration is when I say, I saw a man wearing a black jacket, and then you say, no, it was a blue jacket. And then the third person says, no, the jacket was clearly red. And then the fourth person says blue. Fifth person says blue. Sixth person says black. Seventh person says blue. And then we say, okay, blue and black. Maybe they mistook it. So you corroborate things with the witnesses to confirm what really happened and versus what was perceived. Cameras eliminate that, and you just use cameras for this particular thing. So let's read a little bit here about this article, and then we see here how police are being used. So CCTV is ubiquitous. Police cleared to tap into private cameras. Okay, so first off, we're going to break down this topic, read it, understand it, and then we are going to discuss it, or you will discuss it to me in class. Omnipresent. That's another fun one. Allgegenwärtig. Yeah, basically means it's everywhere, and everyone sees it all the time. And so the big problem in New Zealand right now that they're discussing is not whether the police should have it, but what checks the police should be given to use it. So can the police just use it as they wish, and we give police, so to speak, access to look into every single store that they want to? Or do we have certain checks on them and what they're allowed to use? And this is what this topic is talking about. So we're not going to read the whole text. It's quite big, it's quite long. Maybe you guys can read it for homework if you want to. Here's the main point. Police have been given the legal clearance to continue tapping into private cameras more than 200,000 times a year for evidence. Again, it's all about getting that evidence. You need evidence for a case. And these are private cameras owned by private stores connected to something. And in newly released rulings, judges knocked back several legal challenges that had argued that it should be inadmissible to rely on the number plate identification cameras. This also refers to facial recognition, but no one likes to mention that there's facial recognition in it. Okay, one judge said, while we might all feel uncomfortable by the idea of being watched, the reality of life today is that CCTV is ubiquitous. Okay, they're everywhere, always being used. Plugging in CCTV cameras to ANPR, a high-tech platform for automated number plate recognition, that's what ANPR stands for, it's just a souped-up version of something that people did not question police using. Souped up means it's stronger, it's on steroids, it's better than anything that the public have access to. The defense is concerned that the ANPR function of the Aurora platform is a powerful tool readily available to the police that effectively allows police to spy on private citizens, Judge Belinda Sellers said. So, in other words, defense, the public, this is what they are afraid of. But Aurora did nothing more than facilitate the police's access, and there was no invasion of privacy. What is that? Records show officers, this is just general officers in New Zealand, tap or use more 600 times a day into a private company's or a platform that hosts camera stills and videos, amounting to 220,000 times last year. Between 5,000 and 10,000 cameras around the country connect to Aurora and one other ANPR platform, mostly to combat shoplifting and retail crime. This is what I was talking about. So they say it's between 5,000 and 10,000. It's higher. Just from the vibe that I got from being there, it was everywhere. That was the biggest culture shock change that I noticed in New Zealand, is that these cameras, I mean, they were common before, but now they are everywhere. The numbers have been ramping up since 2015. Yep. Promoting public defender service and other lawyers to launch challenges, arguing police have slipped into mass surveillance, aka the Chinese video that I showed you guys, where mass surveillance is being used to speed up criminal prosecution. But it does the job of a lot of people. So you have to realize it's essentially 10,000 police officers being used by normal people just to protect themselves from shoplifting or from assaults in stores, which was really, really big in 2016-17 in New Zealand. Anyway, that was just some extra context. Moving on. Police also use Aurora to search for people's images and can ask it to look for things such as tattoos, which is a big thing. It can be used to search for people with particular markings, and they say tattoos, but they mean faces. It can search for everything. The newly issued district court rulings showed defense lawyers arguing that that using NPR evidence amounted to a search that police needed a production order or warrant for. My understanding is this is how it works in Germany. You can do all these things in Germany, but you need a warrant for it. And for a warrant, it means a judge goes. In New Zealand, a police officer just does something. It's, where is it? This is just a court case. Yeah. Here we go. So, here we go. This is how it works. So imagine you were a police officer in New Zealand. This is how it works. Thousands of local officers have access to Aurora through their PC or smartphones. with police paying a small annual fee, so you pay for bandwidth use. The court rulings provide a concise guide on how police are using it. An officer on Aurora, so it's an app, chooses from one of 9 categories of crime, ranging from homicide to volume crime and others. Then confirms this is for an investigation, prevention, or detection of a crime before starting the search. The Aurora platform will automatically provide to the officer a list of occasions over the past 60 days where the number plate has been cited. So this is just for one function of this app. There's other apps for other stores and everything, but this one in particular is just for cars. That list will contain the location of the retailer, the date and time of the sightings, and a thumbnail image of the vehicle. The officer could then ask the retailer for the CCTV footage off Aurora, or if there was a video, get a 5-minute long clip. So it basically allows police to immediately go and be like, hey, supermarket store, cool, give me this. Or if it's already online and schon gespeichert, then it gives you a 5-minute version, so just the 5 minutes where the number plate is used. The defense argued that this constitutes tracking a person, which police would need a surveillance device warrant for. In 1 of 5 cases, a search turned up 39 detections of a license plate in Auckland over the 60-day span. Both courts rejected that. We all know that we are likely to be recorded by CCTV footage in public spaces to assist with crime prevention and detection, except that most people are unlikely to know about police accessibility to the Aurora platform, and that the 60-day data retention of data accessible via the platform. However, I do not accept that because this data might effectively amount to a police searchable 60-day log of a vehicle's movements, that the nature of the information therefore becomes personal and confidential. This is Fachchinesisch legal jargon of them talking about this. Blah, 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 blah. Where's the important part? Here we go. The Aurora does not hold information on the number of cameras contributing to the platform and declined to provide a list of all customers and locations on the basis of commercial sensitivity. So we're protecting the businesses that use Aurora and not saying where they were and who's using it. So there's data protection for the companies and the commercial use, but not for the people that it's being used on. But they say clearly its use was extensive. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. The Auckland-based Aurora said that on its website that it services over 80% of the retail enterprise market in New Zealand. Yeah, that sounds about right. 80% of the stores. Police told RNZ they acknowledged that ANPR evidence has been ruled admissible in this instance as it had in every other court decision which has looked at the issue. In other words, every single court in New Zealand where the evidence has been ruled or been used in a court case, the judge has always said, I like what I see. I like the video use is completely admissible or usable in court. The court's decision notes that the privacy controls police has in place around the accessing Aurora and ANPR data, but also that this technology is a vital tool for solving crime and preventing victimization. Victimization against the companies, I'm assuming, or against commercial use. This is on Wednesday. The public expects police to use new technology sensibly to solve crime, and this ruling enables us to continue our current use of ANPR with confidence that our process is robust. Okay. So, what does this mean? Would this work? Is this something that is passable in Germany? Do you understand the police's use? Do you understand the New Zealand police's mentality when it comes to this? Do you agree with them or disagree with them? And do you think that this could be abused? Let's imagine this was to come to Germany. Would you feel comfortable being given, hey, here's an app. You can type in this person's number, their name, and we can figure out where they've been and what stores they've been to. So it's not following you everywhere But if you've been to a store and there's cameras in it, so right now what they're saying is, if you drive your car to the store and the store sees your number plate, it will tell you that it's there. But a lot of these things also involve like what you see inside the store and everything, and or what these people got up to. And if there was a crime within the 5-minute mode, within the 60-day mode, it allows you to gather evidence very, 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 very quickly. Okay. So is this a powerful tool? Yes. Is it helping the police? Absolutely. Can it be misused? Oh, look at this. Yes, it can. We'll talk more about this case in class. This is the one that we'll be discussing in class, and you guys will be saying, how does this work versus Germany, blah, 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 blah. But long story short, the police made a false report. I think they said it was stolen. Yeah, that's right. So a detective said, hey, so they wanted to track some people. This was during Corona time. New Zealand had some of the strictest COVID lockdown laws. This is really, really, really a weird and wacky story. We will talk more about it another day. But essentially, these women were prostitutes, and they went from Auckland to Northland to visit family. But really, they were visiting clients. And the police used this to track their movements to figure out who was infected by the virus. And for a long time, if you were in the district of Northland is like Nordrhein-Westfalen to Bremen, or that's something like that. And there was a long-running joke in Northland for about 2 weeks after this happened that if you got COVID, it meant that you were visiting prostitutes. That was the theme at that time, because these 3 women had COVID and then they spread COVID during their time that they visited them, and the police need to figure out where they went to tell which people go to hospital or which people need to stay at home and do COVID tests to prevent the spread, prevent the further spread of it in New Zealand. Long story short, this happened, and the police said, the car was stolen, using the software to then figure out where these people are. You can understand why they did it. Did they use it incorrectly? No, not necessarily. But it was all very dirty, and then later on the detective removed the alert. It was like, no, we didn't do this. But yeah. Anyway, we'll read through this text and we'll discuss this more another time in class. So, work for me on this topic. Please figure out what you think of this. And would this software, this software ability ever be usable in Germany? Why not? And explain your attitudes on this. So, thank you very much for your attention with the online lessons. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you all had a bit of mental challenge, but also a good mental challenge, and learned something from these videos. If you have any feedback for me, please let me know. I'm more than happy to learn what could have been done better, what could have been done differently. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, and I'll see you guys all in class. Until then, ciao, ciao.